Housing Committee. I'm joined by my colleague, Mr. Price, and Mr. Cedillo is on his way, but he has asked that I begin our meeting for the Housing Committee. So with that, let's go ahead, and if it's okay with you, Mr. Price, we'll go ahead and take item number 1.
Item number 1, the Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department report relative to authorization to release a request for proposals for tenant outreach and educational services for the city's rent escrow account program and utility maintenance program, and extend the terms of 3 existing REAP and UMP tenant outreach contracts.
Very good. Let's go ahead and ask staff to join us at the center table, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Roya Bobazadeh from Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department. The item before you is our transmittal requesting an authority to release the RFP for tenant outreach services for REAP, Rent Escrow Account Program, and Utility Maintenance Program. This component is integral part of the enforcement programs that we have and part of extensive outreach services that we provide to the landlords and tenants. We have one contractor that provides specific services, outreach services to the property owners, and currently we have 4 contractors that they provide educational and outreach services to the tenants. At this time, their contract is going to expire by end of June 2015, and we are requesting authority to release RFP for the upcoming contracts. And at the same time, we are requesting authority to extend the existing contracts for 3 of the tenant outreach service providers to continue their services until we have the new contracts in place. One of the existing contractors is discontinuing their housing services, and therefore we are just requesting extension for the 3 existing contracts, and the work of the 4th contractor is going to be disseminated amongst the 3 existing.
Very good. And so the extension would be for 3 months?
Yes.
And what is it that prevented us from releasing the RFP sooner so that we wouldn't have to do extensions?
Unfortunately, we face exodus of our staff due to the citywide promotional opportunities, vast opportunities for them, that we lost all of our admin staff and the operational staff that they were backup for our admin staff. And we couldn't start this work earlier, and we are extending the contracts for that purpose. This is the first time we are requesting this, and we are sure that this is the last time, because the department addressed this issue by centralizing the contract and RFP processing outside of the operation.
Very good. And assuming that we approve the extension for the 3 contractors, the RFP process, will it be any different aside from the dollar amount? I see that you're going to $600,000 versus the $420,000 previously awarded. Is there a higher expectation of service, or why is it that we are willing to pay more for the same type of contracted work?
We are going to demand additional field staff to be available in meeting with tenants and with property owners on field. They are providing working hours services, off working hours services, weekend services, and bilingual services. At this time, each contractor is assigning 1 field staff. We are going to request 2 field staff from each to increase the level of services.
Very good. And the process for the RFP, so you will, you're asking for permission to design it.
The RFP is a citywide requirement. Are there the specific of this contract is the scope of the work that it's already in the draft that's submitted with the transmittal.
Okay. And so in that process, was there an opportunity for stakeholders to be able to participate in the design and the scope of the RFP?
The design and scope of the contract or RFP, scope of the RFP, we are leaving it rather open-ended for them to offer their service, what they are going to, each proposer is going to provide a design of services that is more efficient and effective in their aspect. Then we are going to analyze it by a panel of experts reviewing and selecting the best design.
Very good. Mr. Price, do you have any questions?
Just a couple. So is there a long list of groups, individuals to whom we're going to send this RFP, or is it, the usual 3 or 4 who would normally apply? Or what kind of interest, what kind of bench is there to provide these kinds of services?
We are required to advertise the RFP in BAVN, Business Assistant Virtual Network, and we select very many different type of professionals and service providers to reach out as many proposers as
So
we
when
can.
did this go out to bid last? When was this out to bid last?
Last
Several years, 5 years, 10 years, huh?
3 years ago.
2 years?
3.
Three.
Every
And
RFP
so at that
out-
time, were there dozens of firms that expressed interest, or just 3 or 2? I'm just kind of curious what the...
I believe last time we received 7 proposals, and this time I expect maybe more than that. And we also advertise our proposals in Los Angeles Times, which reaches very many businesses. And although this work is very specific in the manner that we are expecting, the businesses that they apply for this contract have existing established organizations that they can provide services on day one, and we are requiring them to have a minimum of 3 years experience providing outreach and educational services to tenants. So with that requirement, we are trying to attract the most and highly qualified contractors, and not to get contractors that they need training at work.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Hearing and seeing no additional questions, let's go ahead and take some public comment. Michael Millman, Elsa Chagoya, and Carlos Aguilar. If you can make your way to the center table, go ahead and give you 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, good afternoon. We strongly oppose the entire process. It's no better than a star chamber, third world country bit of backroom dealing. Number one, these alleged contractors are redundant. They're doing the same thing that we're paying the inspectors to do. They stand over their shoulder and watch them. They do not participate. They're redundant. We don't need to spend almost $400,000 to have someone do that. Number two, these organizations are 100% political. Every dollar you pay them is $1 for them to put orange shirts on and march into your city council on the 21st day of May in 2013 and riot and be arrested. Number three, there's a huge conflict of interest. These contractors don't want the tenant out of REAP, because remember, as long as the tenant's in REAP, their rent is cut in half, they never pay it to the owner, and LAHD gets $50 a door. This whole setup with these outreach contractors is poison. This thing has an odor, frankly, worse than the DWP and their slush fund. I would put a break to it right now. I'd get some apartment owner groups to start vetting them and report back to you what they actually do. They do nothing, absolutely nothing, except be a political arm for the tenant activist group, which is fine, but why should my tax dollar, why should my money pay for that? That's not fair. So I would stop it right away. Let's get a hearing. Let's get some landlords and their lawyers, and let's look at it. Shed some light on it. Make it transparent. Outreach is a code word for redundancy. That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Chagoya?
Hi, my name is Elsa Chagoya. I'm the Executive Director of Inquilinos, Unidos, United Tenants, a long-standing bilingual advocacy organization in Los Angeles. Inquilinos Unidos has been a REAP and UMP tenant outreach contractor since 1997. The tenant outreach program has been successful in encouraging landlords to maintain their properties and to bring properties that have existing housing code violations into compliance, thus improving the housing conditions for thousands of residents in Los Angeles. We work closely with tenants to ensure they are educated and encouraged to participate in the REAP program, and help and assist landlords by walking them through how to remove their properties from REAP as quickly as possible. We also serve as an intermediary to facilitate any conflict resolution between tenants and landlords when necessary. I also like to speak actually on item number 2 since I'm up here already.
Actually, you can only speak to
Oh,
item
fine.
number
Okay.
1. Sure.
Okay.
Very good. Are you done?
Yeah.
Very good. Mr. Aguilar?
Okay. Hi, my name is Carlos Aguilar. I'm with the Coalition for Economic Survival. I'm Director of Organizing, and I'm here to speak on behalf and in support of the REAP, the Rent Escrow Account Program. Since 1988, the City Council established REAP to make sure that housing stock would not fall into decay and into poor conditions. And the City Council has continued that legacy and maintained that belief that we all residents in the City of Los Angeles deserve healthy and safe housing. As a contractor, we've been doing this outreach for over 10 years. And we make sure that tenants do participate, their legally protected right to participate in the Rent Escrow Account Program due to the deficiencies and the poor conditions that the property finds itself in, and the determination of the housing department's reduction, temporary rent reduction. We make sure that their rights are upheld. We try to ensure that quick compliance and repair is committed, and that the owners understand how to get out of the REAP program. Contrary to popular belief, we do work with the landlords to make sure that they understand the process. A lot of times it's a simple misunderstanding or lack of knowledge of how they got into REAP, first of all, and how they can get out of REAP. We try to establish a true partnership with the contractors that are not only tenant advocates, but they're also the landlord advocates, and with the housing department to improve the housing stock of the city. And just as an example of one thing that we do that goes outside of the scope of the work and contrary to what's been mentioned, we had an owner who was in a REAP program, and she had fallen behind, if I may finish, she had fallen behind on her mortgage payments. We helped her figure out how to make sure she didn't lose her property.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Otherwise, we'll have to go ahead and extend public comment. So we've been joined by our chairman, Cedillo. Mr. Goya, I want to make sure that if you want to speak to item number 2, please fill out a card. You'll have an opportunity to do that then. Chairman?
Okay. Is a motion before us?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
So be the order.
For the record, the committee is approving this item?
Yes.
Pardon me, sir. Also, the Department of Housing submitted technical changes to the language for the REAP program, so this would be approved as amended.
Approved as amended, and it's scheduled for council when the CAO report is complete. Okay. Are we ready for item number 2?
Item number 2 is HCID report relative to proposed technical amendments to the rent stabilization ordinance and the Los Angeles Municipal Code to clarify compliance, enforcement, administrative procedures for non-compliant properties.
Okay.
Good afternoon again. This is Roya Babazadeh, Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department. I was mindful of your time being a special committee, but I would like to very briefly mention that REAP is a very successful enforcement program. The indicators for success of the program is that since inception, we have brought over 35,000 units to a safe and habitable condition, providing tenants with a better living condition, increasing the value and life of the property, assisting property owners to collect the rental income for a longer period of time. And also by removing these violations from these properties, we are providing a safer, more habitable, and more sustainable communities for the city. We are able to prevent utility shutoff and discontinuation of the necessary services for one property every other day through this program. And we have been able since 2010 to raise the level of services that now we are removing more cases from REAP every year than we are accepting. In 2014, we removed 64% more properties from REAP than we accepted. So this is a very successful enforcement program. We have been able to streamline and enhance the process through policies and change of the process. But at this time, we want to do more enhancement to the process and to the program, which requires ordinance amendments. Before you is our proposal to amend Los Angeles Municipal Code different sections, mainly for the RIP ordinance, RSO, and the purpose of this amendment is severalfold. One is to simplify the process and make it more understandable and easy to follow for property owners. And second is to enhance our due process in place. At this time, the property owners that their property are referred to RIP, they have opportunity for a public hearing on a request base. We are changing that to that an automatic hearing is going to be provided to every one of the property owners that are referred to RIP. Also, the other purpose is to synchronize pertinent provision of different ordinances.
What's going to be, and that sounds like a great proposal. What's going to be the impact? In other words, how many aren't getting an automatic at the moment?
About 50% of the properties go to RIP without requesting a hearing.
And this ensures then that everybody gets a modicum of due process.
Exactly.
Okay,
and
great.
by this way, we are also combining the existing hearing for another enforcement program that we have for the same property. We are not increasing the number of hearings. We are just providing the same opportunity for RIP enforcement that is being provided with our legal enforcement. Both of these enforcement are initiated with the same inspection, but they have different process that with this amendment we are putting them in line.
Good.
And synchronizing other provisions of different ordinances that are related to each other. And also, we know that outreach and education is an important part of the success of every program. We are requiring a mandatory attendance for property owners that their properties are referred to RIP to attend our existing workshops that are offered on a monthly basis, and it's for free. These workshops are very educational, and people that attended, they're appreciative, but unfortunately not all of the property owners attend that. We are making it mandatory for property owners to attend, to get information about inspection, information about hearing, about RIP, and how to maintain their property. And finally, we are adding a preemption language for a provision in the RIP to ensure that for scenarios that state law preempt or local law, that provision is included in the ordinance.
Good. You have cards?
We have one card on this item.
Mr. Millman?
I need to go on the record on the changes to the original proposal that we made, if I may take one more minute before public comments. Two sections that we originally proposed amendment is, one section is 162.04.D.9. We are adding language that indicates the general manager's decision will be the final administrative decision unless appealed pursuant to section 162.06.C. The same language is added to section 162.06.D.3. Also, the department name was changed from Housing to Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department. One part of this language did not change to reflect this change of the name. The section is 162.02 definition. We would like to change the name of the department in that section from Housing to Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department.
Okay.
Michael Millman, M-I-L-L-M-A-N. I'm one of the directors of AGLA. Well, let's state the obvious, what we all know. REAP is a train wreck. REAP has always been a protocol where rights have been denied. Don't take my word for it. 4 judges across the street on 6 different cases found the REAP program to be a departure from the constitutional rights of fairness and due process, and fashioned judgments and writs of mandate directing this department, Mr. Chairman, to stop their REAP program. Let me show you
The
how.
program in its entirety or elements of the program?
Most of the elements that they have. For example, if they find a violation, they automatically knock down the rent by 50%, but there's no factual basis to support whether or not the deprivation of housing services equates to the 50%. They never sent notices to the owners. They allege to have sent them. They don't even serve them like a summons. But here's the thing that's most disingenuous and injurious to me, Mr. Chairman, is my good friend, Ms. Bonachon, says in a letter to the mayor's office on the 23rd of February, she writes, the department has consulted with prominent landlord and tenant organizations in forming these 18 pages. She never, and that department never, came to any owner group, including AGLA, with our lawyers, and we would have gone over it painstakingly and built this program into something that we could be proud of, consistent with our laws. That's an outright lie. And if we pass these today, what we're doing is endorsing a fraud and a lie. So I'm ashamed of the department for lying to you.
Go ahead. I heard you say prominent, though, so
Well, I
it might
think
be subject to definition. So
yeah,
I'm not
I think AGLA with 25,000 members is.
I'm not going to argue with that. I'm saying
we have-
others may have a different definition.
I'm just saying they should have, before they put that in the letter, giving the mayor's office the impression that the landlords have been consulted, they should have consulted us. We would have gone over it, signed off on it.
Sure.
And we would have had something that's appropriate. I would table this. Get these landlords like me to roll up my sleeves and work hard for a program we can be proud of. And I'll give you due process, and we can be proud of it. But these 18 pages, this is to slide it in the deep of night so that the next time a judge sees it, they can say at housing, we didn't adopt it, the council did. It was the council's policy. This is real scary.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
your primary concern is just due process or the substance of what's trying to
My
be
primary concern
achieved?
is both, thank you, sir, is both the due process, that is to say, what types of units are subject to what type of violation, whether the owner gets a clear understanding of that violation, how are they served with the notice, when is the hearing, what type of evidence, who has the burden of proof, and just the basic things that you would get even in a traffic ticket or small claims court. And then the substance of this is they have never been able to prove that the alleged violation, sir, represents a deprivation of essential housing services.
Okay.
So I think we should table it and let us work on it.
Well, let's evaluate the facts. Let's do a little fact check here. Yes, can you please come up and affirm or deny whether or not you met with AGLA or Mr. Jim Clark? When we say Mr. Jim Clark, we assume that it's the Jim Clark that works with you, right? Is that correct? Can we agree to that?
Mr. Jim, we can agree, Jim Clark works for us as a staffer. He is not, Mr. Chairman, a lawyer.
I understand
He
that.
litigates in this
No,
area.
I know, but he is a representative of your organization. He's a staffer. I assume, I think his title is like CEO, Executive Director, something of that akin.
He has an exalted title, I'll
Yeah.
stipulate to that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, he's not the janitor, although he may do some of those activities.
He is not. The board of directors through our legal committee should have vetted this, not Mr.
That's a
Clark.
different, I appreciate that, but we're trying to ascertain something that you said,
Yes,
and so we want to see if we satisfied that.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you meet with Agla?
Yes. we
Did you meet with Mr. Jim Clark?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Clark, we invited Mr. Clark to come and attend this meeting and express their acceptance of the amendment. Unfortunately, he was tied up in another meeting, but he allowed me to express his opinion that he is appreciative of the department's work to enhance our enforcement.
I only
program,
needed to know whether or not you met with him or not.
He
That
accepted the amendments.
suffices for me. You know, I was an executive director and I had a board, and I sometimes, I believed in the course and scope of my contract when it had meetings. At some point, the board didn't feel that I did that enough, and now I'm here sitting before you, thankfully. So I think that with respect to the representations you made, that suffices for us in terms of the outreach that you felt was necessary. That sounds more like an internal matter that you'll have to address within your organization. I thank you for your clarification to that point. Okay. Will you state for the record other landlords or landlord organizations you met with?
We forwarded the information to AGLA, two members of AGLA, and also met with them. I forwarded information to Minority-Owned Apartment Association, Malcolm Bennett, and Mr. Bennett sent me
Is there a
email
California
confirmation.
Apartment Association that you met with?
I discussed that briefly with California Apartment Association. I didn't receive any approval or disapproval.
Okay, appreciate that. All right. Okay. Senator?
I've got no comments. I'll move the approval.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
appropriate.
Motion, so be the order.
And for the record, Mr. Chair, the Housing Community and Investment Department submitted amendments to their report. It is for item number 2, this item, not item number 1, as was previously stated.
Correct. So we adopt the report with the, we adopt the report, right?
Correct.
Thanks for the clarification, as clarified. Any other matters before this body?
That clears the desk unless there's anything else.
Senator? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for being here. Appreciate you.